Hey, Blues fans, welcome to another off-season special episode of Birds on a Blue Note. Today we are going to be going over our first mock draft of the 24 season. We're going to be covering round one for all teams, giving a little bit of our opinion, and thank you to our newest team member, Bryce. We're happy to have you, also known as Battlehawks STL. He is our researcher for a lot of these prospects, takes a lot of time, so wanted to thank him for getting a lot of this research done for us so we could bring you this in depth and what to expect with the upcoming draft. So just gonna kick it off real quickly. First pick in the draft goes to San Jose, and you know, expecting them to take Celebrini, of course, ranked the number one skater in North America, currently over at Boston. Playing in the NCAA right now, he's had 38 games played, 32 goals, 32 assists for 64 points in that time. And I mean, he's been the unanimous first overall pick for quite some time now, and really won't make a case why he should be here. Instead, gonna take a look at what San Jose is really gonna get. And one of the big things, like most first overall picks, is he's basically NHL ready right now, which isn't a need for the Sharks per se, but it's always a desirable. He's had a very successful college career, winning the Hobey Baker last season as the top NCAA player, for those that aren't familiar with the award, and basically scoring slightly under 2 points per game. Like we said, with 32 goals, 38 assists in those, or sorry, 32 goals, 32 assists in those 38 games. And while he's above average in a lot of things, he has elite speed, truly. And his hockey IQ is also something that scouts have complimented him on in the past. Now, unlike Bedard last year, he is going to be having plenty of other prospects that he's going to be coming into play with this year. So just going to be interesting to see what he's able to do for those last place Sharks. Over to you, RJ.
Yep. I mean, number one is pretty unanimous, right? So,
Yeah.
number two, we have the Blackhawks again. Unfortunately, they're just lucky in the lottery, so they get Bedard 1 year and get number two the very next year. But I actually have them taking Art. I'm gonna butcher this name, right? Because the hardest part about predicting an NHL draft is not who goes, but how to say their names, right? So, RTM Levstonov. So he's actually the second ranked North American skater playing at Michigan State. Defenseman, 38 games played, 9 goals, 26 assists. He is plus 27 on the season. Really, this is kind of where the draft begins because, as you said, it's pretty consensus who's going number one. And a lot of drafts do have the Blackhawks going Demidov here, but we think they're going to go more defensive direction. They loaded up on offense a lot last year, and kind of lack that true right defenseman. There's only two other in the draft, and they're both on the left side. So, I mean, he may not be like the most talented pick in the world, but based on how they drafted last year and their team needs, I could see them going this direction. Um,
Mhm.
and he did provide a lot of offense for being a defenseman also, which is going to be a big plus. He's also the quarterback for their power play over at Michigan State. So to me, it makes sense. And since the Blackhawks still kind of suck, and as Blues fans, we're going to say they're going to suck forever. um, they don't have a big rush on him developing like right away, so that he'll have time to kind of grow into his frame too and get a little bit bigger and meaner, and hopefully, for their sake, help them in the future. Um, but yeah, that's all I got on him. So back over to you, Trevor.
Yeah. So third pick in the draft is going to go to the Ducks, and they're always a bit of a wild card. Like, I mean, even last year, their drafts have been really weird. Ultimately, selecting Carlson over Fontali last year, and selected forwards with all of their picks in the first three rounds for the first time since 2018. So we're thinking they're probably going to go with a defenseman this go around, although you never know again with them. So expecting Anton Silayev to get drafted from them, the 18-year-old Russian, currently ranked the #1 Euro skater, and he's playing over in the KHL. In 63 games played this year, 3 goals, 8 assists, and really with what the team has going on right now, going back to their roots, needing more defensemen, he checks a lot of the boxes for that. He has that natural height advantage at 6'7" and weighing 211 right now at just 18. So he's been described as one of the best defenseman prospects in recent years. Skating ability is fantastic and has pretty long reach, obviously, being at 6'7". So, kind of like with Pareko, he's able to essentially drown guys out and then use that stick in case they do get past him. So, providing little to the offense, isn't a plus, but the fact that he's going to be able to kill plays and move the puck really well will lead to, we expect, a good, successful career. His contract with the KHL is not up until 2026, but especially for a team like Anaheim that's just been stacking first rounders for years now and doesn't seem to care about truly like competing, that there isn't any really rush to get him in here. So picking a guy that has a couple of years before they can bring him over, really not gonna stop them from making that move.
Yeah, yeah, and like you said, 6'7", 210. Like that's for his height, that's pretty thin for perspective. I'm like 206 and I'm 6 feet and I'm not fat at all. So like I can imagine they probably expect him to grow quite a bit and be that just kind of mean back end guy for him.
Yeah. Even
Um,
for perspective, even Walker, who's 6'7" on the Cardinals, is 260, you know.
and he does not look
And he
big at
doesn't
all.
look
Like,
big
we
either.
get some muscle on him. Like holy smokes.
This kid's a twig.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, 18 though. That's he's gonna get bigger.
Exactly. Yeah.
Number four, we have Demidov going. Is the winger out of Russia. 5'11", 180. He's ranked currently as the #2 European skater, playing also in the KHL. Stats on the season are super impressive. Between the KHL and the MHL, I should say. 30 games played, 23 goals, 37 assists. He's plus 47 on the season. Um, really, I mean, him falling to uh, Columbus here is they have a strong history of drafting these Russian players. And it might be a little concerning that he's a top 5 pick because he was just sent down to the juniors in Russia, but I mean, it was really only due to an injury. Um, but he's been tearing up obviously lately. Like all those goals and assists in a short amount of time is pretty impressive. Um, he is super fast, super competitive. He has elite release and ability to be creative with the puck. He plays mostly on the wing, but he can play center if needed, worst case scenario. And this is another team that's like just like Chicago. They have room to grow, time for him to develop. I mean, he's only 18 as well.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be a strong pick for him because I mean, with the production he's shown at such a young age, it's impressive. So
Yeah,
kick it
I
back
feel
over to you.
this is one of those drafts that, has pretty solid depth within the first 10 picks ultimately. So, I mean, actually, many are arguing most of the first round is pretty deep and whatnot, but this is probably going to be a pretty solid pick for them overall. But yeah, moving on to the Canadiens, who are picking at #5. We expect them to take Berkeley Cadden, the center, 18-year-old, 5'11", 170, Canadian, currently in the WHL with the Chiefs. In 68 games played, 54 goals and 62 assists. Now, that is good for 116 points on the season. So just short of 2 points per game. He's at a ±15 for the year. Now, obviously, some people might say this is a bit of a reach pick, but really with a, you know, return like Cadden, we don't feel like it's that case. again, 116 points in the regular season in a non-QMJHL league. Like, he's elite on the power play, best in his class, scoring a 99 in that metric, according to Cap Friendly. And this is really important for the Canadiens, who finished almost dead to last at 27th in the power play percentage this year. So even with his offensive production, he's nowhere near a defensive liability and making really good strides in that department. Again, finishing with that plus minus 15 last season, which was a big improvement as he was minus 36 the previous year before that. So we feel he's actually deserving of a top five pick, and a team outside of it, if he does drop, is going to be lucky to have him. But we see the Habs snatching him there before he can drop any lower, ultimately.
Yeah, for number 6 for Utah, we have Zane
Oh, can we
Parekh,
stop 1 second? That's so weird to say. Utah.
Utah.
Utah has a team now. And anyways, go on.
Yeah, yeah, Utah. I mean, you may be tall, but whatever. I'm tall, but you taller. But yeah, he's another 18-year-old. He's a defenseman, 6 feet, 178. So he's got room to grow also. He's currently playing in the OHL. He's a fifth ranked North American skater. 66 games played in the OHL, 33 goals, 63 assists for a plus 39 from a defenseman is kind of unbelievable, really. So yeah, we're talking about Utah. They're getting a team that's pretty exciting for them, but they're going to draft at least, according to our numbers, the most talented offensive defenseman in this draft. So it's pretty exciting. I mean, for a new team, you want that, right? You want to bring that excitement, that goal scoring. So a few other titles I'm going to give him to Parekh also. He's the most elusive, the best power play quarterback, most creative defenseman. He's a top 10 pick, right? 96 points are the most scored by defensemen in the OHL in over a decade. So Ryan Ellis was the last one to do that. He scored 120, 10, 2011. Very high IQ, can distribute the puck really good. And it's really great too when you have younger players on your team like Keller and Cooley who are already there. So he's going to be probably first line defenseman right out the gate. Going to bring a lot of excitement to that team there. I really like this pick for him.
Oh yeah. He's been lighting things up
And
ultimately in
that's
the
an insane
OHL.
amount of points for a defenseman. That's absurd.
Yeah,
It's
right.
crazy. It's not the NHL, obviously. We're doing our best to project these guys, but that's still super impressive.
Again, it's coming from a guy who doesn't sacrifice on the defensive end either, and that's the biggest part about it ultimately. He isn't tall by any measure, but he does know what he's doing back there ultimately.
And like we mentioned with a lot of these younger guys, they got a lot of room to grow still. Like he's 6 feet and under 180. That's rare, right? So
Yeah,
he's gonna bulk up a little bit and he's gonna start bodying some people. And I could see him being like the next big defenseman and like exciting defenseman in the NHL.
he easily could be, definitely. Which actually leads us into Ottawa's pick. Now, they were needing a D-man too, but obviously with Parekh being taken right before, we feel that they actually may reach a bit and take Carter Yakimchek, who's the Canadian, currently ranked the number 11th North American skater, 18-year-old, 6'3", 190 in the WHL, in 68 games, or sorry, 66 games played. He has 30 goals and 41 assists for a -6 and 71 points. Now, like we said, it feels like a reach with him at 11, but the reason why we see him going here is, again, even though he dropped, he didn't put up the offensive numbers that Parekh did, but Calgary was not a good team at all this year. So he's a good defenseman that they can at least pick up and rely on as, again, one of those top 10 guys. He should be able to be brought up pretty quickly. Now, He does have a knack for getting penalties. This season, he actually went from 31 penalty minutes in 22-23 to 120 in
It's a lot.
23-24. Yeah. Now these can be
Putting
fixed
up
by
David Braun
game
numbers.
discipline, but his skill set is undeniable, and Ottawa needs prospects that are going to be guaranteed NHLers, and this guy is one of them. He has that ability to play in all situations, which makes him a desirable pick for them at 7, despite him falling in recent rankings.
All right. So for number 8, we got the Kraken on the board. And like as much as I dislike Seattle from past being a Rams fan and just don't like in the market, that they have a cool team, the Kraken. Uh, anyway, we have them selecting the defenseman Zayef Bloom. He's
Booyah.
also Bloom. Bloom.
Booyah.
Booyum. See, that's why I have you here for. Thank you. 18, 6 feet, 183, another American. He's the fourth ranked North American skater. He's playing at the U of Denver currently in the NCAA. 42 games played, 11 goals, 39 assists, plus 33 in the season. So yeah, I mean, something Francis was known for while he was being the GM of Carolina was selecting defensemen in the first round. So this trend hasn't really taken place too much in Seattle, where Francis has used a first round award for the entirety of the Kraken existence. But we think that this is going to stop here. They have a need for a defenseman, and that's like a pretty big priority for him right now. The
Mhm.
thing that Buyum, right? Buyum,
Yeah.
he brings a lot of offense out of the defensive side of things too. So like he led all NCAA defensemen in points. He was top 10 in the NCAA overall in points. He plays a fast-paced style, very good at defending the net. The physicality is lacking, unlike most of the other top 10 defenders in this class. And being that he's on the smaller side at 6 foot, that has him dropping just a little bit. But like we've been mentioning with a lot of these guys, he's still only 18. So they see that offensive upside and like the potential to score and to be a playmaker on the offense with all those assists is going to be big for Seattle moving forward.
Yeah. They definitely need some of that on their side. So leads us into Calgary, who has the ninth pick. Now, what a story this would be. We have them going with Tej Iginla. Now, any hockey fan should recognize that name. Son of Calgary legend Jerome Iginla. If he ends up getting picked there, I mean, to the same team, might be a reach, but he's actually been playing really well since April. And especially in things with the draft, a lot of times these guys can jump based on what they've done in just the last month or two, because it's that freshness in the head of these scouts and these guys that are at the table picking it up. It's what can I see? What have I
Yeah,
seen
it's the what
lately?
have you done for me lately mentality, right? So
Exactly. And
his
as
favorite.
silly as that is for prospects, with the ability for some guy to flame out in an instant, that can easily happen. Now, he's ranked the number one skater in North America. In the WHL, 64 games played, 47 goals, 37 assists, good for 84 points, and a plus 17. Did play in the WJC. He had 7 games, 6 goals, 6 assists, and a plus 4. Now, again, like we were saying, the momentum that he has been gaining is mainly due to his versatility. He's playing in all situations, and his really solid playoff performance, scoring 9 goals and 6 assists during those WAHL playoffs. These have really been bright spots for them this year, and it's really getting his quick acceleration along with his name. His dad knows how to do this. His son's been around it. He knows what this takes, and due to that too, he's also a proven leader, you know, just like Jerome was. So something every team looks for, and again, it's Calgary. what Calgary fan doesn't love Jerome at the end
It's
of
gonna
the
sell a
day?
lot of jerseys too, right? Like, so I mean,
Exactly. So, from the legacy side to the analytical, this pick just makes way too much sense to not happen. But again, this is merely round one of our mock draft 1.0. So a lot
yeah,
can
this is
change.
assuming no trades too. We'll get into that a little bit later. So this is assuming no one trades or pick.
Yeah.
Um, which leads us into David Putty's favorite team, the Devils. Got to support the team. Um, we have them picking the center, Caden Lindstrom, 6'3", 210 Canadian. He's the number 3 ranked North American skater also. He's playing currently in the WHL for the Medicine Hat Tigers. That's a cool name. 32 games, 27 goals, 19 assists. He's a plus 12 on the year. Um, I mean, all the defensemen project to go early in this mock. Some of them are more forward needy teams that can benefit from this. One of the biggest teams with this issue, I guess, is the Devils, who do not have a center prospect anywhere near their top prospects right now.
Yeah.
Um, so Lindstrom was one of the top prospects entering this draft until he suffered an upper body injury in December. He's recovered quite well since then, but still may need some time to develop. The biggest upside to his game right now is his frame, 6'3" as a center. He has the ability to make a lot of. He's very physically imposing and can make a lot of space for himself. He showed that off, especially in the juniors. So he's not really one trick either. So he can distribute and shoot. And shooting tends to be the priority, right? So pretty exciting stuff from him. He's probably gonna be middle six power forward when he eventually comes to the majors, but I mean, with the ability to distribute and score like that out of his center, that's kind of where we see him going. Top 10.
Yeah. He's a tall guy. I don't see any issues with this pick whatsoever. And again, he's one of those guys that, like we were talking about before, he's dropping because of what have you done for me lately? Just because he's
Yeah,
injured.
injury. I mean, he probably would have gone closer to top 5 without that. So,
Oh,
um,
I easily could have seen him go in top five if not for that injury. But yeah, I mean, teams don't really want to waste a first round pick sometimes on that sort of stuff. It's that instant gratification that they're looking for. So this would be a steal, in my opinion, for Jersey if they're able to get him there, especially with their needs. Like you were saying, they don't have a center prospect anywhere near ready in the future. So he'd slide right in there for them, which would be
yep.
nice. Leads us into the Sabres pick at number 11. We see them taking Sam Dickinson, left D, uh, Canadian, currently ranked number 7 by Central Scouting. Over in the OHL with the London Knights, he played 68 games this year, 18 goals, 52 assists for a plus 56 on the year. Um, and so he's tall in frame, but he really doesn't use his size as much. That's why we have him just outside of the top 10 ultimately. But besides that, he is logging tons of time on the ice for a good London team and plays elite defense. Again, that plus 56, you don't get that if you're letting in goals while you're on the ice, even if it isn't your fault ultimately. So he does have one of the highest hockey IQs in this draft and can be a great power play quarterback on the blue line. Really not much else to say here. Safe pick for Buffalo. They already have plenty of forward depth in their prospect pool. So adding somebody like Dickinson makes complete sense for them.
Oh, for sure. And like you said, he's got the taller frame too. So, like you mentioned that he may not be the most physical defenseman, but that's something that can be learned too. That's
Mhm.
not like necessarily something that's like a natural innate skill like some players have
Yeah,
with like shooting the puck or being a great passer. So that's something that can be worked on also once he gets drafted. So I
totally.
agree. Very safe pick, and you don't get plus 56 by accident. So there's
No.
a lot of skill there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that leads us into Philadelphia. We have them taking Cole Eiserman. He's the winger. He's 17, 6 feet, just a hair under 200. He's American. Central Scouting has them as their number 12 ranked prospect. He's currently playing for USDP out of the USHL League. 57 games, 58 goals, 31 assists, plus 23 on the season. So that's good for 91 points in 57 games. So it is kind of a weird time for Flyers prospect ranks. Their top prospect right now, Cutter Guitar, began in California.
Gotcha.
Gautier. I'm gonna mess up a lot of names. Just get used to this. It's tough. Hockey
It's
names.
hockey.
Hockey names. We'll get there once we hit it. But I mean, they have defensive talent and Drysdale and return to shore up the young defense. The winger position really is where they have an uncertainty. Eiserman changes that quite a bit. Some call Eiserman the most elite pure shooter in the draft. So first game in the under 18 juniors, scored a hat trick on Slovakia. So this is a guy who always wants the puck and always wants to shoot. Maybe a little inconsistent at times, but like you can't teach that mentality really. Wanting
Yeah.
to score, wanting the puck in big moments. He needs time to develop still, but the Flyers seem to be in a position also where they have time. They're kind of like the Blackhawks, where they could just kind of let their guys stew a bit in their lower levels to really gather their footing and hopefully propel them to the next level. So, like I said, maybe the best shooter in the draft, and they managed to snag him outside the top 10. So I think that's a pretty good pick for him.
Yeah, you pretty much said it. Not much really to add there. Next up at 13, we have our rivals, the Wild, picking here. And we actually have them taking Consta Helenis, the winger, Finnish winger. 18 years old, 5'11", 180. He's ranked as the number 3 Euro skater. And really, Minnesota fans seem to be clamoring for a center with this pick, but the right wing position is a need for them. And ultimately, once it gets to this level, he's the best player available. He's playing over in Liga, 51 games played this year, 14 goals, 22 assists. Played in the World Junior Classic in 20 as well. 7 games played, 1 goal, 1 assist. So again, he's not the sexiest pick here compared to a lot of his counterparts, but he's playing in a more professional league over in Liga. So one thing to note for Hellenis is he never stops moving. He's like a constant factor throughout the ice, checking every player in sight and really being a formidable force in the offensive zone. So we think Wild fans will truly like him. Probably one of the hardest players to contain in the draft in the first round. So don't let the stats fool you. This guy is going to drive plays in the NHL and probably be a great middle six winger. So we think it's a pick that Wild fans, especially for, their preferred style, he fits in well with their system ultimately.
Yeah, and he's like just a really gritty player. And to make the comparisons for Blues fans here who are watching, I know O'Reilly was a center with us here, but he was the type of player that, like, while he may not have always been on the stat line, his presence was felt in every game because he was constantly making plays, battling on the boards, battling for the puck control. That's the type of player he is. So he's a very hard-nosed, gritty player, and I think, like, even though they were preferring the center with this pick, I think they'll probably fall in love with him over there with the Wild, and we'll hate him because
Yeah.
we don't we don't like playing the Wild. All right, so with the next pick, we have the Sharks on the board. We have them actually taking. I'm going to butcher his name. Adam Yurchek. I think I got it right. Yurchek.
You're
Yurchek. Yurchek. Hey, I got it. All right, I'm getting better. He's right defenseman, 17 years old, 6'2", 178. So another like smaller frame with room to grow. He's a Czech. We have him right now ranked as, or Central Scouting has him ranked, not me personally. I'm not a scout, but Central Scouting ranks him as a number 4 European skater. Right now he's playing for HC Paizen out of Extraliga. 19 games, 1 assist, negative or plus 10. Um, coming into this draft, Sharks' need was pretty clearly defensive. However, even when you stack the forward room of Musty, Smith, Edstrom, you can't just pass up on someone like Sabrina here at 14. Still have one less defenseman to choose from, with that being Yurchek, but Yurchek didn't play too many games. He got injured this year in the World Juniors that kept him out, so that kind of made his stock fall a little bit. So he will need some time to build up. But even with his flaws, he's an elite puck distributor. He can be used in any situation. He tends to be aggressive when in the rush. That is a guy that San Jose should just sit on and wait for his game to progress as he matures. Um, I mean, still only 17, so like lot of room to grow. Really, just the only reason he's fallen as far is because of the injury. So he didn't play that much. He only played 19 games this past year, but this is the guy that would have been like a fringe top 10 when healthy. So I don't see this really being too much of a reach for him, and they really need the defense, as I mentioned earlier. So that's kind of where I see the Sharks going in this draft.
Yeah, and I mean, they have the benefit of having multiple picks in the first round ultimately. So, I mean, they can really go multiple ways. Heck, we could even see them trading away this pick ultimately.
Yeah, and you don't want to like just because you have multiple picks doesn't mean you should like take unnecessary risk, but at the same time, you do want to try to draft for like the top talent too. Like a few teams have that philosophy, just draft the best player, not necessarily what the need is. But
Hmm.
this kind of fits into both categories at the same time, so it makes sense for them.
Yep. Up next at 15, we have our old longtime rivals, the Red Wings. Basically now have half of the Blues on their team anyway, so it's
Yeah,
basically the Detroit Blues
Junior
nowadays.
Blues, yeah.
But um, we actually have them going with a winger at 15, Liam Greentree, the Canadian over in the OHL, currently ranked as the number 14 skater in North America, 18 years old, 6'2", 211. Mentioned he's over in the OHL with Windsor right now and played 64 games this year, 36 goals, 54 assists. Did have a minus 14, but that is a side effect of playing in, you know, a league like the OHL where there is a bit more happening there. Um, he also played in the Junior Classic back in 18, 7 games played, 2 goals, two assists as well for a +3. Now, really, the Red Wings could go multiple ways just with where their current prospect pool is at. But if they do decide to go with that best available, as you were mentioning a pick before, Green Tree is the best one here available at this point. He's got an elite release point and might be the best puck handler in the draft this season. So even with his offensive ability, his size allows him to play as a power forward at times. Really, the only downside to his game, as far as like the versatility goes, is you're not going to see him on the penalty kill, and he doesn't have the elite speed or skating ability as some of the others in this draft class do, with some even calling his skating ability unorthodox
You just
in the
have to get
scouting
more out there,
community.
right? That's
Yeah,
not bad.
that's not a good word you want to have attached to you.
Yeah.
As a skater. But with that said, he does complement almost any line, and will slot into the middle six ranks for any NHL team. So again, if they're going to be picking the best available at this moment, he's going to be the guy that they go with.
All right. Next, we have our hometown St. Louis Blues. Yeah, let's go. Uh, we actually have us taken Michael Brandsegg Nygaard. He's a winger, right on the right side, also 18 years old. Like most of these guys are gonna be 18. So, but we're telling you anyway, so you know. 6'1", 198. He's Norwegian, currently ranked as the number 5 Euro skater, playing for Mora IK, the Hockey Allsvenskan League.
Don't look at me, man. I don't
Yeah,
follow.
that's a tough one. But right, 41 games played, 8 goals, 10 assists. He's a +3. I mean, 16 is kind of a tough spot to be in. The clear need right now is defensemen, with Theo Lindstein being the NHL quality one out of the prospect pool. But out of all the top defensemen, they're all gone at this point. So it wouldn't taking another defenseman would be pretty big reach at 16. So although Ford really isn't a major need, we do lack defensive play with the current selection of wingers we have, especially in Kyrou or like Jimmy Snuggerud, who's going to be up pretty soon. So that brings in Nygaard here. He looks poised to be the first Norwegian to be drafted in the first round, obviously. So although he's not really elite in anything, he does everything right. And so that's something that's valuable for sure. He's got enough speed to force defenders into honoring him and is not afraid to get dirty on the wall. So he's going to be pretty gritty out there too. He may not be the best forward at this draft, but he eats up lots of minutes too. He does a lot of things right. Like I mentioned, not everything's going to be really, not anything's going to be really elite, but he does everything well enough. I don't know if you hear my cats freaking out in the background. They're fighting right now. So I apologize. Do you hear them?
Nope.
They're battling on the boards right now too. So we are beginning to favor the Swedish leagues, and the drafts being that all three of the first round picks from last year came from that system. And we already signed two of them with Marcus Silvegaard and Samuel Johansson after the season. And so expect anyone drafted by us to come out of the Swedish system. So Nygaard was one of the only major prospects to play at the World Championships recently, holding his own, scoring 5 points in 7 games. So the production proves that he is able to come up quickly through the system and fill in the defensive liabilities we really have at the winger position right now. So pretty safe pick, I think. Like I said, not elite in anything, but good at everything. So there's room to grow
I
also.
mean, at this point, we have Steen running our scouting for the Blues, and he loves focusing on those European leagues ultimately. Now, these guys are more playing with bigger guys a lot of times, so that does help with a lot of their development, like we saw with Lindy last year. Like he came out of nowhere for a lot of people, and you know, we had him pegged as people thought he was a reach when we grabbed him and everything. And look at him now, he's one of our top D prospects.
Yeah,
Probably
for
going to be
sure. And
up in
like
the
those
next
things
year or
can change
two.
really quickly too. And we haven't even mentioned I want to drop this little nugget in here while we're on the Blues. We have been connected to Brady Tkachuk also, so there's a possibility we won't have this pick. So
Yeah.
we could talk about that in another video, but like this is projections based on no one trading anything. So doing the best we can.
Yeah. Um, yeah, so at number 17, we have the Capitals drafting, and we have them choosing Michael Hage, the center, over currently with Chicago, Steele in the USHL. Canadian, 18 years old, 6 foot, 190 pounds. Central has him as the number 10 ranked guy. Uh, 54 games played this year at Chicago, 33 goals, 42 assists for 75 points, plus 17. And really, we think they take him because ultimately the old guard for the Capitals are slowly leaving right now. Kuznetsov leaving, Ovechkin and Oshie days being numbered. So with that being said, Caps need a player who can produce in clutch situations, and that's what you're getting with this kid. Page was elite in the developmental league, being labeled as too good to be true prospect due to his ability to win games at the end of regulation because he's got that awareness and elite offensive skills where if you just take a second off at the end of the game, like he's gonna make you pay for it. But the reason for him actually falling so low in the first round is just purely due to his lack of defensive ability. And as a center, he can be a bit lazy tracking back at times, which you need your center back there to help bring the puck back up. So he's going to be attending the University of Michigan next year. So we'll see if they're able to fix his issues, as they're pretty, stern on those sorts of things and playing that game. So
Yep. strong both ways, right? He's got a little bit of that Jordan Tyree in him that drives us nuts over here in St. Louis with the
Yeah.
defense. Um, that's something that can be fixed. That's an effort thing. So, like you mentioned, the ability to score late in games is huge. So, and Ovechkin's a million years old, so he's still
Hmm.
productive at a million years old. But eventually, they're going to need some young guys to kind of take the next step for him and kind of be the next wave of Capitals players.
Yeah.
So number 18, we have the Blackhawks again with another pick. We have them taking Andrew Basha as a winger. He's also 18, 5'11", 184 Canadian. Currently ranked as a 26th ranked North American skater. Also plays for the Medicine Hat Tigers. Apparently that team's loaded. 63 games, 30 goals, 55 assists, plus 6 on the season. Um, so like we are a bit surprised Chicago moved up 2 spots to 18. I mean, usually if you make a move like that, it's to get ahead of a team that might want your player. In this case, being Vegas. However, Vegas only drafted centers with their first round picks. So since they're founding, really, and Chicago's already loaded at the position with Frank Nazar, Oliver Moore. They have Ryan Green over there, all playing that position. So I still
Yeah.
have shit going here. I'm about to stay, but keep an eye on this pick possibly being a center instead of because of the trade. Anyway, with Basha, he was an understudy to Caden Lindstrom at Medicine Hat and was Lindstrom's primary setup man. So Basha has been considered the best setup man in this draft. His vision has been applauded numerous times throughout his career and throughout the scouting process altogether. He provides for most of these forward is he is a penalty kill specialist and can be a great threat skating up ice during that situation, which is big for a team like Chicago, who's really young and kind of undisciplined. So hopefully he kind of like rubs off on for them, for their case. We don't want Chicago to be good. We want them to suck. But hopefully that kind of rubs off on some of the younger players they have there also. It's going to take them a couple years to develop, but as we mentioned earlier in the draft, they got time. They're not really expected to be good anytime soon, and they got so much good young talent there. I hate to say it, so they can take their time with him. He'll probably he may be called up in like 25, 26, but it's going to be at least a year to two before he gets called up.
Yeah. So on at 19, we find ourselves with the team allergic to development in the Vegas Golden Knights. And we have them picking Jet Luchenko, the center out of Canada, 5'11", 185, currently ranked the number 20 skater in North America, playing over in the OHL with the Guelph Storm. Last year, 68 games played, 20 goals, 54 assists, minus 13. And although they haven't really kept them, Vegas has consistently selected a center with their first round selection, and we expect that to be the case again here. There's two choices left on the board at this point now, and the one that fills the criteria is either going to be Luchenko or Boisvert, and we have them going for Luchenko. He's been one of the fastest risers in the draft so far, and like we said, it's usually about what are you doing for us lately, and he's actually named one of Cap Friendly's few A-plus prospects heading into this draft. Mainly thanks to his versatility. According to the scouts, Luchenko compares more to Nick Suzuki, and that nothing he does is elite, but everything he does is right. High IQ for hockey, and one of the most applauded things that they have from scouts is his ability to take key defensive faceoffs, especially when on his strong side. So really whoever gets him with this pick is going to be a winner, but we have Vegas jumping the gun on him here just with their tendency to choose centers and him being,
While they're still there.
yeah, exactly. There's only two choices we have left at this point, so it's basically a coin flip between him and Boisvert.
Yeah, speaking of Boisvert, though, I mean, I have him going next to the Islanders. So we already kind of touched on him a little bit. But he's 6'2", 178 center. He's projected as a number 17 North American skater right now. 61 games, 36 goals, 32 assists, +5. Islanders really just desperately need a center. And with Iskahovic being the only top one in the pool when he played for the USHL team, that usually means he has some things to work on, which is the case for Boisvert. So he has solid height, 6'2", very lean also. Like I said, with a lot of these younger guys, 17, 18 years old, they have room to grow. But he checks a lot of the boxes when it comes to fundamentals, solid stride, eats about 18 minutes a game, can pass or shoot. I mean, obviously with his stat line there, he has good checking ability. Everything he does really is good. Um, what Boisvert really is elite at though is on the face-off dot. So something like every team really wants, right, is winning those puck battles and the face-offs. He's committed to North Dakota University, so expect him to develop over the next few years there. But like as I mentioned earlier, he can put some muscle on to match the physicality, and he continues to grow with his game overall. Expect him to slot in as like a second line center for him.
Yeah. So at 21, we have the Kings picking over in LA, and I hope I get this right. They're going to choose, in our mind, Tarek Parasak.
Paris
Oh.
Gak. I'm just kidding.
Oh, sorry, Parasak. My apologies.
Paris.
Tarek
Sorry,
Parasak.
if you're watching, unlikely, but
But he is actually ranked the number 5 skater in North America by Central Scouting, 6 foot, 176 out of Canada. Um, I mean, this is what the Kings do best. They are one of those teams that does like to choose best available. They like to go, you know, usually with other picks like a D-man or a center. This would actually be the first time since 2014 when they chose Kempe that we have them picking a right winger in the first round. So basically a decade later. But he's just too good to pass up. Parasak is one of those rags to riches stories, being a fourth round pick in the CHL draft to now being a first rounder. And he's proved it. He's playing in the WHL and 68 games played, 43 goals, 62 assists for a plus 49. It's 105 points on the season. And he does this in two ways. Prime way, he's a high volume shooter. He gets pucks to the net, which, you know, it's one of those undervalued things right now in the game. Too many people trying to be fancy and stuff like that. You never know when a shot's gonna go in. Um, Real downside for him is he's not as fast as others in the draft and tends to have problems regrouping and even playing pucks off the wall. But when you get to this point in the draft, I mean, this is the NHL draft. This isn't MLB and whatnot. Once you're outside of the top 20, most of these guys are going to have their flaws, and it's about actually trying to develop them here. Um, and I mean, this is a guy that's overcome, you know, doubters before. So nothing saying he can't do it again and be a top 6 forward ultimately. But we have him as the best available here, and that's why we have the Kings picking him.
I mean, a lot of people don't really value the volume shooter as much anymore. I actually really like that. Because hockey's funny. You never know what's going to happen. It can get deflected on the way in. You could get a nice meaty rebound to set up one of your other wingers or defensemen. So, I mean, you don't get that many points on accident also. So that's something to be really valued here. And obviously, he's the best talent available at this spot. This deep in the draft is pretty impressive. You can't really pass him if he's still there.
No, not at all.
So yeah, for number 22, we have our friends, the Nashville Predators, who have my guy I'm wearing right now. The C is Captain O'Reilly. Remind me not to buy a jersey anytime soon because every time I buy a jersey for a Blues player, they leave or they retire. But we have them taking. I'm gonna butcher this. Aaron Kvirov,
TV Haru.
Kiwi Haru. It's pretty close. Left defenseman. He's also 18. Weighs 170, 5'9". He's actually the 8th ranked European skater right now. In La Liga, he played 7 games, 1 goal, 1 assist. Juniors under 18, 5 games, three assists. He's one of our favorite prospects, really, even though he can't say his name correctly. Usually that means they're a good hockey player, right? So, uh, he had a very rocky previous season, as a stat line proves. He was injured most of the draft season with an injury sustained in September. So that really plummeted his stock. He was going to probably be a top 10 pick, but now he's in the mid 20s. So this may be like the perfect opportunity here for Nashville to seize like an elite talent just because of injury.
Hmm.
Um, So I mean, with that being said, though, he's not the best offensive defenseman when healthy. He loves creating plays, and he is an excellent quarterback. He's got great vision, and has made some spectacular passes. I should have said he is one of the better offenses. It just makes my words up. So no big deal. We'll get through it. Um, I mean, like highlight real type plays, right? So I mean, the comparison really is Torrey Krug, probably Boston Torrey Krug when healthy, but maybe St. Louis Torrey Krug also because of the injury, so you get a little bit of both. But it seems like a really good pick for Nashville. They have one of the best AHL rosters in the league. They can afford a first round pick taking multiple years to develop, which is exactly what he's going to be. Um, but yeah, I mean, just coming off the injury, super high, like I said, super talented player. He's going to need a little bit of time to come back from that injury and like just really get fully healthy again to doing what he did best. This may be one of the steals of the draft, and I hate to say it's because it's another rival. They seem to be getting a lot of players I like, so
Yeah.
is what it is. Hopefully he gets hurt again. No, you don't risk injuring anybody, but uh, yeah, he ideally he's going to be the Roman Yossi replacement when the time comes for them. So we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. But I think it's a good pick for him.
I mean, ultimately, this is one of our favorite prospects in the entire draft. I mean, just to give people that don't know a little bit of backstory on him, he started playing U16 hockey in Finland when he was 13 and was drafted as early as possible into the USHL. And so, I mean, he's playing for one of the best teams in Liga. And like you said, unfortunately, he just got injured earlier on in the season. If not for that injury, I mean, he could
Yeah,
have
we're
easily
like top
been.
10 potential, right? So it's
Yeah.
unfortunate for him, but fortunate, I guess, for Nashville, who may get the steal of the draft here. Um, but we'll see. I mean, we'll see. Like, these draft projections are always kind of a crapshoot sometimes, but we're doing our best. So like
Well,
and
yeah,
subscribe.
and it just sucks because like if we were looking for a demon for the Blues, like this guy, if he's able to like, show some stuff, he would be a bit of a reach for us. But maybe who knows? Maybe we trade down if somebody's desperate enough to jump up. Maybe
Yep.
we trade down for somebody like Kiwi Haru and get something extra out of the draft, like an extra second or third rounder or something like that and whatnot. But you never know how these things are going to shake out. We're just focusing on what trades have already been made here right now.
Yep.
So, coming up next at 23, we have the Maple Leafs. We have them picking a fellow Canadian in Beckett Seneca, 6'2", 175, 13th ranked skater in North America, currently over in Oshawa in the OHL. Played 63 games, 27 goals, 41 assists, good for 68 points, just over 1 point per game, so gotta like that. Also with a plus 33, so he's really not on the ice much for many goals. They've just got so many wingers that play on the left that it's time they pretty much get people that can play on the right. He was very impressive in the OHL playoffs for Oshawa, defeating a lot of top teams prospects like Dvorsky for us and Musty. So Seneca has great size and good speed, and some scouts are basically calling him a high right reel on skates. Um, who is destined to make a long list of enemies for mostly the right reasons, quote unquote. So he may have one of the quickest releases in this draft, and he can play on the weak side too of the power play, thanks to his one-timer, which can be deadly. Defense does need to improve and will with time, but with a team on a cap crunch like Toronto, they're going to need some cheap depth players, and he definitely will provide that for them in the next couple of years.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. And they got a really talented roster already, also,
Hmm.
so they can afford to give him time he needs in the lower levels to develop more.
Yeah.
But I mean, when you got that highlight reel ability, especially later in the draft, it's hard to pass on a guy like that.
Hmm.
Um, but next we got Colorado, though, 24, our friends, the Avalanche. We seem to have a lot of enemies in the league now these days. We have them taking the Russian Nikita Artamonov, I think. He's also 18, 5'11", 187. Like I said, Russian. He's a 19th ranked European skater right now. He's currently in the KHL playing for the Torpedo. 54 games played. He's got 7 goals, 16 assists. He's a -6 on the season. Um, but yeah, he also plays on the same team as prospect Nikolai Kovalenko. So there's a lot of reasons to like him. He's probably the most versatile forward in the draft, playing in any forward position he pleases, really. So he's got an impressive KHL resume, also being the youngest player to score 4 points in the KHL game. 200-foot player, plays solid defense, but can also play the rush. Few flaws currently besides the whole KHL issue. Artamonov isn't as polished on the offensive side as most forwards in the draft. But and combine this with being a little undersized and lacking physicality, I mean that's kind of where he falls in late first rounder. But there's a lot to like about him too, like playing both sides of the ice pretty strongly. And like a lot of these young guys, he's already been playing with another as prospect, and that they've kind of grown together. So
Hmm.
hopefully you see a bit of that chemistry as they come up. Um, but yeah, I mean that's kind of what you get with the late first rounders is like hope they kind of develop this and they're good at this. We can work on this type of player. So
Pretty much. Yeah.
yep.
They're all going to be little, you know, diamonds you have to mine out and form ultimately.
Yeah, and for sure. And you know, it's not impossible to draft a star player out of the late round. It's just it's harder to find them. Like just you got to find the right guys too, right? So people that are willing to
Hmm.
work on those flaws.
Absolutely. At number 25, we have the Sens picking. We have them going with Ryder Ritchie, the right winger, currently in the WHL with Prince Albert Raiders, 6 foot, 175, 19th ranked skater in North America, 47 games played this year, 19 goals, 25 assists. And this might be Ottawa's last first round pick for a while as the Dodonov situation gets figured out. So because of this and because they already picked earlier, the 25th pick is, at least we think, somebody that should be able to develop over a long period of time. And who fits that bill better than WHL's Rookie of the Year? He has an entire 200-foot game, can quickly transition to playing high physical defense whenever he's struggling offensively, but he is 17, so he gets that extra year for them. His main tool on offense is the one-timer, especially near the slot. He's got a solid shot from there. Also very versatile when it comes to positioning, but prefers to be a winger at the minimum. Now, he did suffer a lower body injury through the season, but didn't stop him from being a major part of the gold medal winning Canadian U18 team. Now, of course, his lack of elite offensive ability and mediocre speed has caused him to drop into the 20s, but some of these mock drafts have him even falling outside the first round, which to us is absurd. One of these top teams with these late picks is going to get a bargain with Richie. In this situation, we think it's Ottawa that gets it, especially since they consider, you know, their first pick round next year for a player and everything.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head too. This is a guy that's going to take at least a couple years to develop, but that's kind of what they need anyway, right? So
Mhm.
um that whole situation's a little hazy. We'll see how that plays out though.
Yeah.
So we got Montreal on the board next, the Canadiens. We got I'm gonna butcher this name too. So we haven't taken Igor. It's a fun name. Chernyshov.
Chernyshov.
Chernyshov. It was close. Another 18-year-old. He's 6'2", 192. He's a winger out of Russia. We have him ranked as a ninth European ranked skater. Um, Currently playing for the Dynamo and the KHL. In 34 games over in the KHL, 3 goals, 1 assist, a -3. Um, so, I mean, like some teams just like picking players from certain countries, such as the Blues with the Swedes. That it's the case here with the Habs and the Russians, right? So,
Hey, they're
uh,
the same colors as us, blue and
yeah,
yellow, man. It doesn't take any change. They're used to it.
yep. I mean, but yeah, like they took with their lead scout Nikolai Bobrov, um, helping select the loads of Russians. Like they took Konyushov, Ugry early in the draft. The Habs didn't have a single Russian fall to them earlier, but here they have a chance to kind of get that guy. He is one of the elite playmaking forwards in this draft class, having a 5 assist game already in the MHL. What brings him down in these rankings as he truly doesn't have a shot though, especially when playing in the more professional KHL. However, he's got good size and ability to play on the weak side of the power play should lead him to be a first round pick, in my opinion.
Yeah, I have to agree with you too. And like you said, Bobrov loves selecting Russians. So,
Yeah. I mean,
if
the KHL is a pretty good league over there too, so they definitely develop a lot before they even make the move over here to the NHL draft. So
when the thing is too, when you have those connections there, Russian to Russian, it's a lot easier to get guys over from the KHL and whatnot because it's a lot more bureaucratic stuff and whatnot with that release and everything.
yeah, that's why I wanted Panarin to be a Blue so many years ago, and we had Prime Vlad.
Yeah,
Please trade him to us. Um, but yeah, I mean, shot something. Hopefully, he can develop, but like, you can't really teach that type of playmaking to be able to like find the right guy at the right time and make the great pass to lead the point. So,
yeah.
um, late first round, like we mentioned previously, there's always going to be a couple things they can work on. We're really looking for like the things that teams need. And in this case, it's playmaking.
Yeah. Next up at 27, we have the Hurricanes from Carolina picking. We have them going with Emil Hemming, the right winger from Finland. And he's 6'1", 201, number 6 Euro skater. So we feel that he's really much, a bit of a steal this late. Ultimately, with his rankings, he's playing over with TPS over in Liga, 40 games played, 7 goals, 4 assists. Um, Carolina now they've been up and down for years, so they actually have a very solid prospect room, especially with defense, so they can afford to go with the best available winger here, which is Hemming. He also actually fits that dual threat winger title. You know, obviously left by Billy, who was sent off in the Gunsel trade. Best thing about him here is his elite one-timer, which we have as probably one of the best in the class. Also a natural when it comes to distributing the puck too, especially around the hash marks. The two knocks on Hemming really that bring him down are his struggles back checking on defense at times, and his skating ability looks a little lazy too at moments. So I've seen some scouts consider him to be an odd player, possibly spawning into the third line, but then playing at the same time on like a top power play line. So one of those weird,
Yeah.
juxtapositions. But whatever the case may be, we expect him to be an NHL caliber player. So this would be a safe pick for the Hurricanes here.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, being able to play on the power play line is super valuable also.
Hmm.
Um, top being the top unit there. So next we have Calgary at 28. We got an American name this time, so I won't mess it up, I hope. Cole Hudson, left defenseman. He's 5'10", 165, 55th ranked US skater. And the USHL in 19 games, 3 goals, 9 assists, and -2. Um, I mean, if you just looked at Central Scouting rankings, you'd be crying that this would be one of the most laughable reaches of all time. But if you look at his World Junior performance, you probably think he's a top 10 pick. So you look at Calgary, you'll see no defenseman in the pool. With the later first round pick, this is a good selection for him, probably great selection for him.
Yeah, I'd go with great with
Yeah.
just with where their prospect pool is.
I mean, like a game to watch to really see how good he is, though, would be US versus Slovakia in the under 18 World Juniors. He
Hmm.
opened up the scoring and was the best player on the ice. He's a great power play quarterback. He's elite in working in small areas. He does tend to take too many risks at times, but he will learn. I mean, that's something you can learn also over time to like take less of those. I guess the main thing on him probably is the size. Only being at 165 is not going to do much in an NHL when you're getting checked constantly. But he's also one of the youngest players in this draft, and like we mentioned earlier, with a lot of these other guys, they're super young. I mean, they have time to grow and build up physically. So I
Yeah,
mean,
outside of
watch
those
his
in the
recent
top
play.
five that are expected to be like in the NHL by the end of the year, everybody else has a little bit of time and
Yeah, I mean,
whatnot.
he's 17, so like he's got a lot of time to grow. And just like if you watch his recent plays, we said it's very impressive. He looked like the best player out there. So being able to get someone like that with that much raw talent this late in the draft, I think you can't really pass on.
No, not at all. Leads us into the Duckies, the Mighty Duckies picking again at the end of the draft, number 29. We have them choosing Lucas Peterson, center out of Sweden, 16th ranked Euro skater. And um, I mean, been 29 picks, but the first Swede finally comes off the boards. There's actually a lot of good Swedish talent in this, like, late first, early second with Eriksson, Salin both being possible first rounders, but do have Pedersen going here because of his consistency. Again, Anaheim has shown their love for taking Swedes just like us, taking Leo last year over Fantilli. Um, he's been described as Mr. Everything by scouts, and that's because that's what he does. He's shown the ability to take key defensive faceoffs and has been up for the challenge whenever he is needed at the international level, scoring 35 points in 27 games in all competition for Sweden's under 18 squad. What does make him slide in the rankings here is that the back half of his season has been rough for him. Like we were saying, a lot of that is that what have you done for us lately when it comes to the draft? And at least right now, some scouts feel like he hasn't proven that he's an elite scorer like some of the other forwards in this draft. Um, but with that being said, he looks to slot in as a middle six contributor at the NHL level, which Anaheim could always use if they're actually trying to build up anything over there. But who knows?
So that leads us into our next pick, which goes to the Flyers, number 30. We actually have the right defenseman Henry Muse. 6 feet, 183, 18 years old. He's a Canadian, currently ranked as the 37th ranked North American skater from Central Scouting. Played in the OHL for the Ottawa 67s. 65 games, 15 goals, 46 assists for plus 16 on the season. Um, I mean, when you have multiple first rounders and you don't really have any desperate needs, as is the case here, you should spend one on a forward, and then I think probably the other on the defenseman to kind of cover both bases there. They took a forward earlier in Iserman at 12, so Muse slots in nice at 30 for him. So let's kind of get the negatives out of the way first, though. He does make a lot of mistakes, especially in the offensive zone. His decision making needs to improve quite a bit if he wants to play for an NHL job in the future. But even with that, there's a lot of upside to his game. I mean, he's a great distributor. He can quickly catch and release the puck. He plays power play quarterback in the OHL this year. I mean, this late in the draft, you're looking for upside always, more so than the flaws. The flaws can be worked on, you would think. So he has time to mature. And if he does, expect him to be like a bottom four defenseman at NHL level.
Uh, I mean, I don't really see who else they're gonna take here ultimately.
Yeah, you just want high upside, right? And since they already took or they already took the forward, I mean, you would think logistically take a defender with the highest upside, right? So I mean, 46 assists is nothing to sneeze at in the OHL. So he's got that playmaking ability. He just needs to like work on those mistakes because it'll get punished a lot more at the NHL level if he continues to make them.
It definitely will. And yeah, like you said, I mean, they've already gone with a forward here, and it's not like they have a glaring need at winger or
Or
anything like that.
defenseman, really.
So, I mean, there weren't many. other picks here that I could see them going with, considering the next two that we have off the board are both forwards. Ultimately, if they're going to take a defenseman, it's going to be Muse here.
Yep. Again, I look for the high upside, right? So,
Yeah,
I mean, that's what you get here.
pretty much. So that leads us into the Stars with the 31st pick on our board. We have them choosing the center winger, Sam O'Reilly, 6'1", 186, currently playing with the Knights over in the OHL, ranked with Central Scouting as the 24th overall skater in North America. And in a Jim Nill draft, one thing is pretty certain. There's about a 90% chance he's selecting someone from the CHL with his first round pick. And if you're going to select a CHL player, why not select one of the guys from the best CHL team, or at least one of them? So O'Reilly's been one of the biggest risers according to Central Scouting, going from 40 at the midway point to 24 now at highest on some of their drafts. He's a natural center, not afraid to take that important draw at all. Hockey IQ off the charts, according to scouts. They say he sees the ice really, really well. And combine that with his above average stick handling and ability to play off the wall, and you got yourself a pretty good prospect right there. Um, Funny enough, the guy he actually reminds us of and looks most like is Ryan O'Reilly. He's just as smart a secondary scorer who does everything right. The stats aren't going to fly off the wall when you look at his numbers. Like this year, 20 goals, 36 assists in 68 games played, but plus 32. Um, but ultimately, his stats are probably why he falls this late in the draft. Because, like I said, Central Scouting has him going as high as 24 in some mocks. But again, this can primarily be chunked up to just being on a loaded team, which means, if somebody's eventually going to get a good steal with this guy. The question is, does he go in that first round or does he drop further to the second, ultimately?
Yep. I mean, that's exactly right too. And I mean, even the way I view it too is like even if certain players' stats don't like really, like you said, like jump off the table, like O'Reilly's here, it's still valuable to have that type of player. It's just going to be like gritty, hard nosed, like battle on both ends of the boards. Not
Mhm.
not afraid to take the draw in times of need. I mean, those are all, like I said, you don't. There's not really stats for that. It's not going to help your plus minus at all, but it's going to help your team. So, um, I like that pick also. Obviously, I'm an O'Reilly fan. I'm wearing my O'Reilly jersey, so good luck to O'Reilly in the future. Just not against our Blues, right? Because we don't like
Yep.
Dallas either. We seem to have lots of enemies these days. And wrapping up the draft at pick number 32, we got the Rangers selecting Cole Bedoin. He's 18, 6'2", weighs 209. He's a center, also another Canadian, currently ranked as a 25th ranked North American skater from Central. He plays for the Barrie Colts out of the OHL. 67 games there, 28 goals, 34 assists for a +2. I mean, the way that we see it right now, the Rangers are looking for a center and a defenseman in this draft, and centers are harder to find later in the draft, especially since Seattle owns their second rounder and our Blues own their third rounder. So, for that reason, we have the Rangers here selecting the best center available, and that's Bedoin. So, some scouts have called his skating ability as similar to that of Boone Jenner and how wide it is, and how his skating ability might be the reason he ends up in the first round. Combine that with the ability to absorb contact and at one time from the weak side, and you have yourself an under the radar type of prospect, right? So, last pick. So he's not afraid to get physical up against the wall, winning puck battles time after time. I mean, that's something we just talked about with O'Reilly also. Hard nosed, gritty. It's not really something you can teach. Some people just have it in them. They want to battle like every second they can. So, main fallback really to his game is body positioning, as scouts have described it. He does look a little lost at times. So, I mean, still a lot of upside though. Makes him a good final pick for this draft.
Yeah. And like you said, that wraps it up for our first round mock draft 1.0. So,
A lot of players.
oh my goodness, takes a lot longer to run through this thing than you think it is, but hopefully everybody that watched this, we hope you guys enjoyed some of this in-depth. We know information on some of these hockey guys is harder to find because of, just availability of some of this stuff. So
They're all over the
hopefully,
world too. Hockey is like they're everywhere. Hockey
oh yeah,
players, so many
exactly.
leagues. It's not like football or baseball where most of them are going to come out of like America, or in baseball's case, the Dominican or Japan. It's they're all over the place.
Yeah, you got to follow the European leagues, the Russian league and the KHL. You got to follow the Canadian leagues and the freaking USHL. Like it's
Yep.
it's a lot, man. So, thanks again to our new rep here, Battlehawks, for all this wonderful info that we were able to help fill you guys' heads with. And don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll be continuing our Blues off-season coverage with more of these mock drafts as information gets updated, especially with, the playoff order sorting out, stuff like that. We got the playoff finals happening starting next week. God, gotta wait a whole week for more hockey. So at least we got some baseball in the meantime. But don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you all later. Anything you want to say, RJ, before we sign off?
No, I mean we're about to come up on one of the most exciting times of the hockey offseason with the finals wrapping up. We'll have a lot of potential trade talk or trade rumors to run through also. So look forward to that. So yeah, if you're a Blues fan, Cards fan, really anything St. Louis sports media related, give us a like and sub. We appreciate it, and thanks for hanging around with us for over an hour.
Yep. Have a great night, everybody, and take care. We'll see you next time. Bye.